No, we got a few more minutes. Let's see if anybody rolls in. It's never late to 12 o'clock, and then it's early.
Look at the picture.
I know. Mr. Bradley helped me.
Which way does the sentence go? From left to right. But I did it wrong. What?
However,
Yeah.
Oh,
he did it.
I told him I
You
take
did
it.
it. I did it. Well, I fixed it. What did I do wrong? You put the American flag on the right side.
Oh, I thought it was the other
That's
way.
where you put it.
Yeah, that's what.
Because when you face it, it's always on your left.
Oh, so it should have been on this side.
Yeah.
I told him the wrong way. I had it in my head, and I didn't look at the picture. I'll confess.
Okay. I do my best for you.
I know.
Do everything I
I know.
can.
Just need more coffee.
What?
Need more coffee.
No.
You're good.
Coffee isn't required. I haven't had my coffee. Well, I had my own coffee. I haven't had my church coffee.
Oh, well.
Same
I was gonna give Tom more if he needed it.
Maybe I need something else. You don't have any Baileys, do you? If I buy a bottle and put it on the worship budget, I gotta figure out how to launder that so it doesn't show up. And you know the Irish. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Evansville. Before we sing our opening hymn, number 20, I have two things to share with you. One is a question. What do you get when you cross a Unitarian with a Jehovah's Witness? Or in the plural, a bunch of people who knock on doors for no particular reason at all. I ripped that off of somebody. In a completely different vein, though, I want to share a poem to set the tone this morning by Pablo Neruda. I ran across this the other week, and anyway, I just want to share it with you. And now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. If we were not minded about keeping our lives moving and for once doing nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count up to 12, and you keep quiet, and I will go. Begin our service. If you would stand, if you're willing and able, and sing hymn number 20 in the gray hymnal. Be thou my vision. Again, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Evansville. Whoever you are, however you got here, you are welcome. Everything about you is welcome. So thank you, and it's a blessing that we're all here together. Would ask if there are any church announcements that need to be made. At least one. Hydism.
Good morning. Apparently I'm back to old habits. I haven't been doing it in a while. Barbara used to have to keep track of me all the time for dates, and I've been better lately, but apparently I messed it up again. Our next Friends Night Out will be on August 17th. If you wrote down the 27th, Arden, it is wrong. It's the 17th. It's Thursday, and we're going to the Gerst House. If you haven't been there in a while, it's good food, something different, and I hope you can join us. The sign-up sheet is on the guest table, or you can email me. I've had a few people email me already so far. I'll have to double check with them and see what date they think they're going because I'm not sure at this point. But the 17th, I will need reservations 2 days before, so that would be the 15th, and that's a Tuesday. We thought we'd try Thursday this time. A lot of people don't take reservations on weekends, on Fridays and Saturdays, so we thought we'd give it a shot. It's at 6, yes, always at 6, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, and for those of you who are board members, there is a board meeting tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, and it will be on Zoom. So any other announcements this morning? Okay, we mentioned that we do welcome everyone, and we like to be hospitable to visitors if we have any. And our tradition here, which we hope is not a painful exercise, but if you're a visitor and you're willing to stand and tell us who you are so we can welcome you properly. Have any visitors this morning? I don't see any, but that's just me. Well, in that same spirit, also a tradition here in our, anybody online? Thank you, Ben. Okay. And I'm sorry this does exclude the online people, but do stand up and move your arms if you wish, but do greet one another and help break our isolation that we're so bound to be, and model for the world how we can actually be involved with each other in a healthy way. So take a few moments, greet one another. Shit. Thank you, Bill. And now with Unitarian Universalist churches worldwide, we light our chalice. And if I could have a volunteer, please. Or not. Thank you, Ken. This is an anonymous quote. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. It's an interesting response.
The wig is trying to escape.
Oh, I pulled it up even.
Yeah, it went down again.
Well,
And then it went down again.
gravity, what are you going to do? Now it's time for our offertory, which is a free and responsible activity of the congregation. We do have bills to pay, but we also think it's part of our worship liturgy. And I am going to say again, because I do believe it in my heart, that if you need money, take it. If you have money, give it. And we will now take the offering in that spirit. Thank you for those gifts. We trust they will be put to wise and judicious use. And thank you for all the ways you support the life and work of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Evansville. And now we have children and a storyteller for the story for all ages. So Amanda will bring the kids forward. And also, Ashley, just point, are we singing the children out today? Okay. Is that going to work for you, Amanda?
I'll just lower it, yeah.
Okay.
Well, hello, good morning. I did have a lot of coffee today, so if you can hear me. This is called Ideas Are All Around. It's by Philip C. Stead. Look, you see? What's in that one? Today, outside my house, the sunflower opened up. Hello, sunflower. I planted it from a packet of very old seeds. There were a lot of seeds, but only this one grew. Actually, there was one more, but it fell down in a rainstorm before it could open. Planting a seed is always a risk. I have to write a story today. That is my job. I write stories. But today I don't have any ideas. This is my dog, Wednesday. She doesn't like me to write stories. It's sunny out and Wednesday wants to go for a walk. Come on, Wednesday, let's go. Sit down. Together we walk over the bridge, down the concrete stairs, then under the bridge, and across the boardwalk beside the river rolling lazily by. There, on a small log, is a painted turtle sitting very still in a pocket of sunshine. His name is Frank. Hello, Frank, I say, and like each time before, he makes quick for the dark water and disappears. Goodbye, Frank. Someday, I hope he looks forward to these smidgens of time we share. Me and Frank, we're in this together after all. Hi, Wednesday, comes a loud voice all the way from up the hill on the other side of the river. It's Barbara. Wednesday loves Barbara. Barbara lives in the back of a tall blue house with 2 dogs, 3 cats, and an aquarium full of tropical fish. I used to live in the blue house too, in a room at the very top. One day, I tripped on the front steps carrying a bucket of blue paint. The bucket flew out of my hands and the paint made a big blue blob on the sidewalk. When Barbara came home, she said, "How wonderful!" A blue horse. Hey, Barbara, I call out. Maybe we'll stop by later. Okay, she says, I'll make coffee. Then comes a line of ducks floating downstream. Hello, I say. I don't have any ideas today. If the ducks have any advice, they keep it to themselves. Written in spray paint on the boardwalk near my feet are the words, Stop War, which is a pretty good idea if you ask me. What do you think? I ask a tall bird standing in the water. The bird flies away when Wednesday gets too close. How wonderful. Tweet, tweet. Up ahead, a train rumbles by. I wave and imagine passengers off to places like Chicago, Omaha, Seattle. You should never walk on train tracks, I say to Wednesday. But we do it anyway. If we follow them far enough, we'll end up in Cleveland, Baltimore, New York City. But instead, we walk uphill past the school and around the big purple house. We stop at the stone church where a long line of people are waiting for the soup kitchen. Nice day for a walk, a woman says to Wednesday. A man in a wheelchair bends down and scratches Wednesday behind the ears. I used to have a dog just like you, he says. Wednesday wags her tail and more people come to say hello. No one seems to notice me. So I wait and watch the blue sky. Maybe I'll use my typewriter today. A typewriter makes writing fun. Clack, clack, clack. You take a walk on the page. I bought my typewriter from a man with thick glasses. Hello, he said, come on in. Did you fix all of these? I asked. Fix and repair, that's what I do. Do you have a favorite one? He looked all around. You know, I really don't. It's like when a person loves horses. Each one has a different personality. I love them all. Wednesday tugs the leash, so we start to walk again. There are a lot of birds out today. I can hear them, but I'm not good at seeing them. I have to imagine what they look like. Lead a weep, chick, 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 poeet. I know one real bird call. The black-capped chickadee goes tweet, tweet, high then low. It's the same sound I make when Wednesday chases a squirrel and I want her to come back. Wednesday, wait! Tweet, tweet. Wednesday, says Barbara, it's so good to see you. I come following after. Hi, Barbara, how's it going? Pretty good, she says. How are things? I have to write a story today. Wonderful, but I don't have any ideas. Oh, says Barbara, I wouldn't worry about it. Ideas are all around. We sit on the front steps and drink coffee together. Wednesday watches for squirrels. Barbara tells me about the skunk that's been living in her cellar lately. We keep each other company, she says. Barbara tells me about the canoe she'd like to buy. There are so many things you never get to see if you don't get out on the water. I tell Barbara about Frank. We talk about typewriters and the bird calls we know. We talk about long lines of people waiting for something to eat. We talk about places we'd like to go on the train. We talk about war. It's such a waste, Barbara says. We could all go fishing instead. Then Barbara gets up and pulls a weed from the front yard. Did you know that 10,000 years ago, this spot was the bottom of a lake? It's true, giant ancient fish swam in herds like buffalo, and before that, this neighborhood has seen so many things. Let's go, I say, and they follow me home, lonely ghosts. Clack, 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 ding. Together, we take a walk on the page. Wednesday falls asleep and dreams of squirrels. The end.
Before we sing the kids out, I want to make an announcement. Next week during the Story for All Ages, we're going to be doing a blessing of the backpacks in honor of school starting. So bring your backpacks or maybe your work bag, if you have a work bag. And that's what we'll be doing next week. So, all right, let's sing the kids out. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Our opening words this morning are a poem by Thich Nhat Hanh, whose work we will I will use later. Anyway, this is one of his poems. I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks, and I am the arms merchant selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I am the 12. Anyone online have something to share? Okay, hearing none. We treasure all that's been shared this morning, and we also know that not every joy, sorrow, or concern can be shared publicly. It rests too close to the heart, and I will put one pebble in the bowl for all those unspoken concerns. Okay, now we would take a few moments of quiet time to center ourselves, at which time you can pray, meditate, simply enjoy the quiet. And then after a few moments, we will break that silence by singing together hymn number 123 in the great hymnal, Spirit of Life.
As most of you know, one of our principles is the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, which falls back on us then to figure out what truth and meaning actually are, if indeed that can be done. And I ran across this story by Thich Nhat Hanh. If I say that name, do y'all know who that is? I don't mean to be one of these people that throws names around like you should know it and like I know something you don't and blah, blah, blah. So I don't have to say who he is or was. Anyway, the story really struck me just on its face. And, you know, the internet just complicates everything about what we might believe to be true or not believe to be true and who believes what. And you get into a lot of he said, she said kinds of debates, and which I find to be completely not helpful personally. And also just one thing when I was thinking about it is maybe it could help me not be a dogmatic ideologue, which I think is not helpful either, because it cuts out debate and stuff like that, or at least to me. So what I want to do, this is a short piece. In terms of response today, my hope and invitation is that you would simply sit with this, because I don't want to get into who believes what and why and whatever this morning. That's not my intention. But if we're serious about the search for truth and meaning, that this might be a story and a resource in that effort. So I want to share this with you, and then, but if you're moved to respond, we have the time to do it, so please do. In Buddhism, knowledge is regarded as an obstacle to understanding, like a block of ice that obstructs water from flowing. It is said that if we take one thing to be true and cling to it, even if truth itself comes in person and knocks on our door, we won't open it. For things to reveal themselves to us, we need to be ready to abandon our views about them. The Buddha told a story about this. A young widower who loved his 5-year-old son very much was away on business, and bandits came, burned down his whole village, and took his son away. When the man returned, he saw the ruins and panicked. He took the charred corpse of an infant to be his own child and began to pull his hair and beat his chest, crying uncontrollably. He organized a cremation ceremony, collected the ashes, and put them in a very beautiful velvet bag. Working, sleeping, eating, he always carried the bag of ashes with him. One day, his real son escaped from the robbers and found his way home. He arrived at his father's new cottage at midnight and knocked on the door. You can imagine at that time, the young father was still carrying the bag of ashes and crying. He asked, "Who is there?" And the child answered, "It's me, Papa. Open the door. It's your son." In his agitated state of mind, the father thought that that some mischievous boy was making fun of him, and he shouted at the child to go away, and he continued to cry. The boy knocked again and again, but the father refused to let him in. Some time passed, and finally the child left. From that time on, the father and the son never saw one another. After telling this story, the Buddha said, "Sometime, somewhere, you take something to be the truth. If you cling to it so much, when the truth comes in person and knocks at your door, you will not open it." Guarding knowledge is not a good way to understand. Understanding means to throw away your knowledge. You have to be able to transcend your knowledge to the way people climb, in the way that people climb a ladder. If you are on the 5th step of the ladder and you think you are very high, there is no hope for you to climb to the 6th. The technique is to release. The Buddhist way of understanding is always letting go of our views and knowledge in order to transcend. This is the most important teaching. That is why I use the image of water to talk about understanding. Knowledge is solid. It blocks the way of understanding. Water can flow, can penetrate. And again, I simply offer that this morning as a resource for us. When you think that something is true, that you're holding on to it to be true, to at least think about it. In this vein, someone said once, if you see a headline and you think it to be true, ask yourself why you want it to be true or why you want it to be false, and think about it. And again, I just ask, my invitation to you is just to sit with this, teaching about hanging on to things and letting go of things and what that may mean for us, and our principle of seeking truth and meaning. So if you have any response, I welcome it. If you want to sit with it, that's fine too.
I think that when there is not a particle of you that recognizes the truth that is diametrically opposed to what you know to be true, you can be very, very resistant to that truth. But if there's even a little bit of you that thinks, that might be true, I think you're more open to it. And I think in my life journey, from when I've said this before, when I was really, really little, I realized that there was a difference between how girls and women were treated in this world and how men and boys were treated in this world. And it didn't make sense to me. I also was blessed that even with all that knowledge, I still wanted to be a girl. So I was definitely cis. And that was a blessing for me at that time. And so I was able to, throughout my life journey, see, oh, the culture at large thinks this, but it's wrong. It's opposed to what, I believe, what I know to be true. And I've resisted the patriarchal influences in culture since I was very little. And the same thing goes with my anti-racism work. If I didn't believe at the core of my being that at least a little bit, even when I was young, that the racist world that we live in is wrong. And so I was open to gaining more and more knowledge and awareness and empathy as I've had my life journey. But if I didn't have at least an inkling that maybe there's a possibility that this new truth could be truth, I think I would have been, and I think I probably still am on those ideas, that I would be very resistant to it. Does that make sense?
I don't know if this is going to make sense or not, but I'm going back to the Barbie movie. It's got two completely different worlds in it, Barbie land and the real world, and then Ken land dumb, because Ken takes over. I don't want to wreck the movie for anybody, but Ken takes over. The men take over from the Barbies. And I mean, the whole movie's a real big send-up of the patriarchy, and that's funny, but just listening to this, it made me think that it's all about perception. It's what we perceive to be true. Because the Barbies believe one thing, the Kens believe another, and out in the real world, everybody has a third view. And, I've talked about story here before, how everything is story. We make all these ideas up, and then we believe them, whether it's patriarchy or what we believe in politics or religion or economics, anything. And it's really, if we have a resistance to changing a story or a perception or a truth that's not working anymore for us, or that is working but might not really be true. I know I'm rambling now, I'm trying to figure out what I want to say as I go along, but the movie, just thinking about it, gave me a really good look at how I perceive things. And here's another point. I have a really dear friend who's probably the only Republican I know well. And we have obviously different views, but we both believe that our views are the truth. So who's to say who's wrong? And it's really good for me to have conversations with her because we're not going to change each other's mind, but we can still love each other and be friends. So thank you for that. It was a good lesson.
Kind of piggybacking off of the Republican and Democrat thing, I think that there's a very strong push in culture right now to be very like committed to a specific stance. It has become very all or nothing. If you aren't fully dedicated to something, you don't actually believe in that. And I think that that's detrimental because not only does it force people into a box and a way of thinking under the illusion of, well, this is my personality, it closes people's minds off. I have a lot of people my age that I've talked to that have been pushed into certain ways of thinking because they felt like they needed to find themselves or they needed to figure out who they were and what they believed. And they're always very confused when I come at them and I'm like, well, that makes sense to me. And they're like, oh, so you believe this? And I'm like, well, not necessarily, but it could be right. They don't like that. So I think that society as a whole has kind of pushed this like very exclusive and almost warlike kind of push for personalities rather than finding your personality in like a community standpoint. It's very like, who am I as an individual rather than like, who are we as a community? And so I think finding truth would be much easier if we were open to discussing topics with other people without being like, well, you're just trying to change who I am.
So I look at this a little differently. I think, pretty sure I'm kind of on a spectrum for Asperger's. One of the things is you like structure, you don't like change. If I have a schedule and someone throws a wrench in it, it really pisses me off. Or say I got this goal, I got to do this thing. Well, I just found out I got to do this and this and this in order to get to this. And that really irks me too. And so I know so it doesn't sound like I'm talking about what we're talking about, but I actually am, because I was in a very staunch religion and there was security in that. There's security in thinking you know the absolute truth. And after that got blown out of the water in my mind, I lost all that security. And so it's tough to listen to stuff like that. Like, never think you have the absolute truth, you know? But, you know, my mind says you have to know the absolute truth, you know? And I don't. I'm kind of messed up in the head now, you know, when it comes to what is truth, what is absolute. And it's okay. I know you guys say it's okay to not know everything. It's the journey. It's not the destination, it's the journey. And to me, that's like, it's still frustrating to me, to be honest with you. I still like structure. I still like having a hold on what is truth and saying that what is truth, you know, that really ticks me off. So I'm trying, but this was my own reaction to this philosophy, this message. Great, I believe it. I don't want to believe it, but I believe it, kind of thing. So.
And what I was saying before about building capacity, so whatever your truth is today, if you test it and you try to work with it and challenge it and question it, maybe it's going to open your capacity up to a larger truth or a deeper truth or a truth that relates to more people. So I think that just sitting on your truth and being comfortable with it and being satisfied with it maybe inhibits your growth to greater and more truth. Because I think the universe is, wow, we can't even comprehend, right? So so I have to be open to more truth, to more new information that maybe contradicts everything that I know. but I have to be willing to, maybe I need to know more.
So first off, the truth is what I believe. No, I'm just kidding. No, what you said is kind of what I was thinking, actually, coming over here today. I think one of the biggest problems right now is that a lot of people want that structure. And that's where we're getting into problems right now. That's why we have that big division. And also what you were saying, I think is, that's my frustration with like being a Democrat. I'm not real happy with the way they're pushing us around and you're going to go for this guy and you're going to be this way when, well, that's not necessarily the true way to be, right? And I think that's probably a big part of what's going on in our society is we have to believe we know what's right. And the other side believes this, you know, that they're right. And it's a very, very strong division right now. So I think what you said is true, that we probably need to look a little bit harder at the other side and see maybe they have some things that make sense. And then maybe by understanding what they believe, they can start understanding us, you know? But anyway.
One of the things, and this maybe piggybacks on a little what Kendall said, is I really feel like we can't get so divided that we're not leaving people paths to change their mind. We can't put them in a box that's so tight that they can't start to wonder if maybe there's something they missed or something. And it's harder to do in this climate and this atmosphere that surrounds us. I also want to say, and I don't know what this has to do with truth, but I have a nephew who's been on a psychotic break for 6 or 7 months now. And I know it's all brain chemistry. It's still really hard when he's talking and he's believable because he believes it so much. And you know, absolutely, it's not true. He's not about to go to the Ukraine and fight, you know, that the Air Force hasn't asked him to do this secret mission and he's not gonna leave in 3 hours. And you know, 2 minutes later, it's another story that's completely just out of his head. But a lot of the other things he says that aren't as obviously wrong, it's really hard to believe that those aren't true either because he believes them so much. I don't know. It's just weird how that makes it hard. But
Well, thank you so much, as always. I learned so much from you, and I really appreciate your thoughtful comments. Again, I thought that was a wise and I would even say important story, and just ask you to take it with you and sit with it and see if it's helpful in any way. Closing hymn is number 34 in the gray hymnal. So stand if you're willing and able, and we'll sing that together. If you've ever been to a wedding and someone read the 13th chapter of 1 Corinthians, this is it to music. you'd remain standing, please, and repeat the words in the bulletin as we extinguish the chalice. Truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts till we are together again. Closing words are by Flannery O'Connor, who said, "The truth will make you free, but first it makes you odd." Another great Irish Georgian. Go in peace, and may your living bless the world.